Yesterday we began a sugya. We saw this on Kuf Dalin on the base. We saw an opinion of something that was sent to Avu the Shmuel, that if in front of Bezdin a Yevamot spit in front of her Yavam, it would go ahead and have the same effect as a get would get of the Isra of the Raisa Kimish Abana Shula Yivna. It's a bias. Once you had a chance to do it, you didn't do it, it's gone. So, in other words, they weren't in the protocol of chalitza. They didn't say anything. There was no kriya whatsoever. There was no chalitza. Simply, she spat in front of him. So it would passel that none of the brothers were able to do yibum. We went ahead and we tried to figure out who was the Tana. We said it was the Tana of Rabbi. This is from some difficult sushtel to a Gemara's in Kotchim. And it said that Rabbi Akiva was of the opinion that only thing that could passel a chalitza would be the lack of the chalitza, the actual taking off of the shoe. But the rendition of the parsha, the reading of the parsha, and the rakika and the spinning would not go ahead and do that. The Gemara is going to question, like Rabbi Akiva, that you're telling me spinning doesn't passel. I'll show you that it does. So we're up to 2 lines from the bottom on Kuf Dalid Omid Beis. Umi Amar Rabbi Akiva rakika le pasla. Is Rabbi Akiva of the opinion that rakika will not passel? Is he of that opinion that rakika won't passel? V'hatanya, Kuf Gimel Amid Beis at the bottom. V'hatanya, cholza. If in fact you went ahead and gave chalitza, v'lei rakaka, you did not spit, v'lei kara, and you did not read the parsha, chalitzasa kashera, the chalitza would be what? Would be kasha. So in other words, the chalitza was done, meaning taking off the shoe was done, the spitting and the kriya was not done, then it'll be a good chalitza. Rikaka, if you spat, v'loy chalza, but you didn't take off the shoe, v'loy kara, you did not read, chalitzasa psula, the chalitzasa would be what would be pasel. Then it would be pasel. Kara v'loy rikaka, v'loy chalza, if you read, but you didn't do any maisa, you didn't spit, or you did not take off the shoe, ein kan beis mechush. There's nothing to go ahead and be concerned about. So Tosfos points out a very nice thing over here. When it says chilasa psula, what does it mean, chalitzasa psula? It means that it's puzzle on the brothers. Because if it didn't mean anything, that there was no chalitza, then it would say the lashon ein kan beis mechush. We see that there's something called, there's nothing to be concerned about. Nothing to be concerned about means like you didn't do anything at all. Chalitza psula means it's not a good chalitza, but epis afketan, you did do something. What's that something? That you asked it on the brothers. In other words, here the diak. There's 3 levels, guys. There is a kosher chalitza. There's a middle level where it's not a good chalitza, but you can't do yibum. It passes on the brother. And then there's a 3rd level. The 3rd level being that there's nothing, that you'd have to repeat the whole process. So when it says over here, if you read, but you didn't do the other 2, then ein kan beis mechush means you'd have to repeat the process. It must mean when it says chalitzasa psula, it must mean it's the 2nd level that it passes on the brothers. In other words, it's not a good chalitza, but it would affect that you won't be able to do yibum. Anyway, that's who is the Tana of this of this price, the money. Ilema Rabbi Eliezer of our Mishnah, who said that kochayase, you have to do every single maisa, meaning not only do you have to take off the shoe, but you have to spit as well. You just told me, if you took off the shoe and you did not spit, the chalas would be kasha. That's the opening line of the brisa. Rabbi Eliezer says kochayase, davashu maisa ma'akiv. Anything that's a maisa is ma'akiv, and clearly spitting is a maisa. So how could it be kosher? So therefore, Rebbe Eliezer al Korchach cannot be the time of this brisa when it says spitting is not a problem if you don't. He says you have to. It wouldn't be kosher. El pshita, it must be Rebbe Akiva. It must be Rebbe Akiva who said kocha yasa ish. It has to be an action done to the individual, such as taking off of the shoe, but an action not done to the individual, such as spitting, would not be a problem. And therefore, Al Korchach must be Rabbi Akiva. Now, if that's the case, that it's Rabbi Akiva because of the first clause of the brisa, then we have a problem. The katani rekaka, you spat. V'loy chalsa, v'loy korach, that's a psula. So you see that what? Now, if you spat, let Rabbi Akiva tell me spitting's nothing. 1 second, you said it's puzzle because you spat and you didn't do a chalitza. Leman, alma. If it's speaking about mata to the rest of the world, meaning that you would not even need another chalitza, pshita. Mi havi chalitza the shturi la'alma. Would it be a chalitza that mata the rest of the world? At best, it's a chalitza that's going to pass on the brothers. It won't be a chalitza that mata the rest of the world because you didn't take elolav la'achin. It must be that what? It must be chalitza psula to pass on the brother. Shma mina. So you see guys spitting. The act of spitting is something. You spat. You didn't do chalitza. Chalitza psula. That's level number 2. That means it's also on the brothers. And it can't be Rabbi Eliezer, so it must be Rabbi Akiva. So you see Rabbi Akiva spitting is something. It does do something. Not like you suggested that it doesn't do anything. Says Rabbi Akiva. Yeah.
When you say it's usher to the brothers, is she mutter to the rest of the world at that point in time?
No. That's what I said. There's 3 levels, Hesh.
The middle one, I have a problem. That's the middle one. I have a problem with that. That could be worse than you're in no man's land with the middle one.
So you need a real chalitza. You do another chalitza afterwards, Hesh.
Okay, all right.
What it means is psula means you can't do yibum, Hesh. Chalitza psula means we won't let the brothers do yibum. But again, tamata to the world, you go ahead and do a regular chalitza.
Okay,
so now, we've proven like Rabbi Akiva that Rakika is something. Now, it comes out according to Rabbi Akiva, Rakika would passel to the brothers if you spit. But if you don't read the parsha, it doesn't. So the Gemara wants to know, you read the parsha, just reading the parsha, guys. Just reading the parsha is nothing. Again, what did the Brisa say? The Brisa said if you did the chalitza and not the other 2, it's good. If you did rakika, if you did what you spat and you didn't do the other 2, it passes to the brothers. If you read and you didn't do the other 2, it's nothing. Question: what's the difference, like Rabbi Akiva, between spitting and reading the parsha? Why don't we say when you read the parsha also would ask to the brothers? In other words, people will see that you read the parsha. They'll think that, and she gets married. People will think that what you can do yibum, or they do yibum. The brothers do yibum. They'll say, 1 second, I can do yibum after I do the kriya. In other words, what's the problem over here, fellas? If people see that you spat and then you went ahead and the brothers did yibum, they'll say, 1 second, a chalutza could be taken as a yevama. That's the problem over here. Why does it ask it to the brothers? It's a gezerah, what people might say. People will see you spat, and then, Sean, you do yibum. So we ask on the brothers, you can't do yibum. Masha'en came by kriya. If you read the parsha, then if you do yibum, we don't have a concern. Fred the Gemara, what's the difference? Maybe I should be concerned even by the kriya, that if they did kriya, they'll say, 1 second, you did kriya. What are you reading? You're not reading Aleph Beis. You're not reading the parsha Tzitzis. You're reading the parsha of what? Of Yevamot. And nonetheless, you're doing a yibum afterwards. Why aren't we concerned over there that people might say, just like if you spat, you'd say this, look, there's yibum after chalitza. Who are then, if you read the parsha, there's yibum after kriya. That's the difference. As I read the Gemara, that's the Gemara's kasha. And for the Gemara, kriya, the issa bein betchila bein besoif, kriya that you have before you take off the shoe and after you take off the shoe, right? It takes place before. Loi miflecha, lei. You're not going to make a mistake. You know what's going to happen? People will say the following. You did yibum. You know what? They were reading. You know what they were reading? They were reading before the chalitza. They were reading before you took off the shoe. So people won't come to say you can take a yavama after chalitza. They'll say the chalitza was never done. The kriya was before the act of chalitza, right? They won't make a mistake. Mashenki rekika de betchila lesa. It's not before you take off the shoe. Ulbesoif isa, and what? And the end it is. So what are they going to say, guys? Guys, what are they going to say? If you just saw the spitting, what are they going to say? You know what took place before the spitting? You took off the shoe. So she's a chalutza. And therefore, they'll say, oh, there's yibum after chalitza. So we have a fine distinction between the two. If my concern is people will say it's possible to do yibum after chalitza, that concern only exists by spitting, not by the parsha. Why? By the parsha, if they heard them reading, they'll say, you know what? There never was a chalitza. They're doing yibum. They're doing yibum. I was a kriya. That was the kriya before the chalitza, and they stopped. So there was never a chalitza. There never was a chalitza, and I don't have to worry. Mashenki Marakika. If they see a yibum after rakika, they'll say, you know what preceded the spitting? The act of chalitza, because that's the order of the protocol. First you read, then you go ahead and take off the shoe, and then you go ahead, right, and you spit, and then you read again. Okay, so therefore, very geschmack. They'll say that they'll say that there was a chalitza, and therefore I'm worried. That's the distinction to explain Rabbi Akiva in the Brisa why by Amira ain ba kriya ain ba beis nechush, and by Rekia chalitza pasula, which is also on the brothers. Guys, was that good? I spoke a lot. Was that good? Okay. Anyway, says the Gemara Vaita. Okay, now this whole Gemara was predicated upon that what was sent to Avu the Shmuel on yesterday's Amid Days, that you spat in front of Bezdin. What's the din? Does it ask on the brothers or not? God, we said it does. There's an other lashon. Vika the army here was the shiloh, or the question, or the statement that was sent to Avu the Shmuel. Vika the army, hachi sholchule Yevamot sherekaka, a Yevamot that went ahead and spat. In other words, she's in Bezdin. She's going through the protocol, and she spat before you took off the shoe. You would be able to go ahead and continue the chalitza, and there's no necessary to spit after the shoe. Took off the shoe, you spat before, it's okay. It's not ma'akif. That's what was said. Usually the protocol is first taking off the shoe and then spitting. No, she spat before. It's unnecessary to go ahead, and not only, as we're going to see, it's unnecessary, you can't go ahead and spit if you take off the shoe. This is a kamei de Rav Ami. There was this woman who came in front of Rav Ami. Haviyasa Rav Abba Mamamel kamei. Rav Abba Mamamel was sitting there. Rakaka kamei the taklets, and she spat before you took off the shoe. Amalei Rav Ami cholitzla v'shorle tigra. Go ahead. Rav Ami said, take off the shoe, and that's it. And nothing to worry about. You need to spit. How can you just take off the shoe and nothing else? So Rabbi said, "Oh, she spat already. So therefore, since she spat already, you don't have to spit again." Spit a second time. Spit the first time, take off the shoe, and spit a second time. So what says the Gemara? No. You know what's going to come out? Some really bad thing is going to come out. The Amit Tahada V'Terik. Amrila say Rakika Kamaisa less be Meshasha. The Rakika Kamaisa, there was nothing to it. The Asi Lemishri Chalutza La'achen, right? You go ahead and mated Chalitza to the brothers. We just went through a whole Gemara. You're going to go ahead and spit without a Chalitza. People can't go ahead and say that there's it's possible you miss the Chalitza. So if you spit a second time, they're going to go ahead and do away with the first one. And with the first one, as is on the brothers. So to go ahead and prevent that, we don't let you spit a second time. How could Rav Ami say you go ahead and take the shoe, or after spit, you take the shoe and don't spit again? You need seder. And usually the taking off the spitting comes after taking off the shoe. It says the Gemara Kisidron le ma'akiv. It's not ma'akiv. It doesn't stop it. That order is not ma'akiv. Who savar? Rav Abba, who held that you should spit again, he said that Rav Ami was telling him, it's not ma'akiv. He thought he was just giving him, a dichud de keteretz. Nafik, he went out, he checked into it, and he found the following: the Tanya, bein shehigdim chalitza l'rekika, whether the taking off the shoe preceded the rekika, which is what you're supposed to do. Bein shehigdim rekika l'chalitza, which is what you're not supposed to do. Masha asli, whatever you did is done. Whatever you did is done. So those are the two lashonos. The first lashon was, what's the halacha about a Yevamot that spat without the yibum process? And therefore we said it has the effect of giving a get that would ask on the brothers. That's the first lashon of Avu Shmuel. The second lashon of Avu Shmuel is you're going through the yibum process and you spat before what? Before chalitza. It's unnecessary to what? Not unnecessary. It's also to go ahead and spit afterwards, lest one come to say that what? You may go ahead and say you can matter Yevamot after chalitza. Okay, a little agarata, guys. A little agarata, very, very little, but it's nonetheless we'll take what we get, right? Levi nafik l'kriyasa. Levi went out to the boondocks. I have written over here, Ayin Erevin Chavches Amid Days, that he would go out to the boondocks to check his fields. That there was the Kfarim with a dot, that's where they had fields were. So Levi went out there. He was checking on his property, and they had they asked him 3 shilas. First shaila, ki demes mahu shetachlitz. A woman who has no hands, can she do yibum with her teeth? A woman who has no hands, again, she has to mata the shoe. Can she take off the shoe with her teeth? Second shaila, Yevamot sherakaka dam mahu. We know she's supposed to spit. What happens if it's not saliva that comes out of the mouth, mucus, but rather it's blood? Is that considered rakika? And 3, aval agad l'chad, a message to Daniel from Shemayim, aval agad l'chad es haroshum b'ksav emes. I'll tell you what's written in the true what record. I'll tell you that now. Mechlal v'ksav shein emes. Mechal and Shemayim is ksav. That's not emes. If it's ksav comes from Shemayim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu chasima Hashem Elokeichem emes is emes. So yes, this pasuk, the inference of the pasuk is, well, there must be one that is not emes. So it says the Merle have a biyadei. Levi did not know the answer to any of these 3 questions. He didn't know about the gidemes, he didn't know about the blood, and he didn't know how to explain the pasuk in Daniel. Asa Shalbe Midrasha, Levi came to the base medrash and he asked the Sheila, Amulei, Miksiv v'cholza biyad. Does it say v'cholza biyad? Does it say, how do you go ahead and do chalitza biyad? Meaning, obviously, you could do chalitza with your teeth. You could do chalitza with teeth. In fact, I don't know if the Gemara is going to bring it. Maybe, probably will be. I didn't see yet. The Avner ben Ner was the general of Shaul. He was the strongest person in Kal Yisrael. Yoav was the general of Yehuda. There was a bit of a fight that broke out between Yehuda and Binyamin after the death of Shaul, or who should be the king. And Avner and Yoav asked Avner Shaila, how does a woman without hands perform chalitza? And he said, with the teeth, and he said, show me. And as he bent down, Yoav killed him. So this is interesting that this Shaila played a part. Now, regarding the second Shaila about spitting blood rather than saliva, does it say you have to spit saliva? Doesn't say that. So obviously, if you split blood, it would be a good ibum, a good chalitza. It's not a problem. A Gezar Din that has a shvua, there's no going back. If it's a Gezar Din that has a shvua, that's MS. Kam Gezar Din sheini my shvua. Gezar Din that doesn't have a shvua. Kidivar Shmuel Barami, don't Shmuel Barami. Rav Yonasim Minayin Gezar Din sheishim a shvua sheina miskareya. The Gezar Din has a shvua that it won't be ripped up. Shnemar it says L'chein Nishpati LeBeis Eli. Eli had 2 sons, Chafni and Pinchas. Guys, they went ahead and they perverted the whole purpose of kachim. They would make women wait. They would go ahead and take before they're supposed to take, before they burning their murim, they would take their pot. Basically, they would mavaz the kachim. Ein shila necher ava el b'shem bizu kodesh v'gilei royas b'vad. Gemara said, so Chofni and Pinchas, as a result of this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu went ahead and said the following: L'chein nishpati, I swear. It says this is the word of the Navi. I swear the Beis Eli to the house of Eli. Im ischaper oven Beis Eli b'zevachu b'mincha. If Beis Eli would go to have a kapara b'zevachu mincha ad oilam, right? So you won't get a kapara al zevachu mincha ad oilam. They'll never get a kapara. I mean, when it says ad oilam, what does that mean? It means no going back. That's it. That's the Gezar Din as a shvua ad oilam. That's it. Beis Eli, they won't get a kapara. Amar Rava. Okay, so what's pshat now? So very good. Everything's MS. Everything is MS. Doesn't mean not MS, but MS in the context of Daniel is it's accompanied by what? By a shvua. So therefore, it's certainly going to take place. It's MS that what? If you don't do tshuva, if there's no shvua, that it will take place. But if you do, there's a contingency plan that what it doesn't have to take place. Now, Amar Rabba bezevachu mincha eni miskaper. They bezevachu mincha by bringing karbonis, they won't get a kapara. They'll be mechapu b'divrei Torah. Abaye Omar b'zevachu mincha in miskaper. Av mischapu b'gemilas chasodim. The Mischapa would be Gemilas Chasodim. So Rabbi Abaya with the base Eli Kasa. Rabbi Abaya came from the house of Eli. Rabbi the Osik b'Torah. Rabbi learned Torah. Chaya Abayim Shin. Abaya he learned Torah. He lived for 40 years. That's Rabbi. Abaya the Osik b'Torah Gemilas Chasedim. He did both. Chaya Shisin Shnin. He lived what for 60 years. So there's a beautiful marshal here, guys, to explain this. So in other words, the diak is the zevach uva mincha ain't mischaper with karbonas. They won't be mischaper, but they will be mischaper with Torah what and Gemilas Chesed. Says the Marsha, al shleisha the Mishnah Navais, al shleisha the varim oil moimed. 3 things the world stands upon: al Torah, al avoda, al Gemilas Chesedim. Now a person is not a bar oinis in Shemayim till they're 20 years old. So therefore, Bnei Eli would what? They would die at 20. They would die at 20 because again, they can't get a kapara with the avoda. Why not? Because ein katega nasa sanegar. In other words, the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur doesn't wear gold inside because we don't want to remind the Kadosh Baruch about a chet egel. So the reason why they're dying young is because they were mavaza kachim in the first place. So how could the thing that is prosecuting against them come and defend them? Ein Kateger, the prosecutor, Nasa Sanega, become a defendant. So therefore, of course, Karbonis couldn't go ahead and save the hide of Bnei Eli. However, there's 2 other Amudim of the world. What are 2 other Amudim of the world? Torah and Gemilas Chesed. So each one will give you an additional 20. Since you're not a Bar Oynish till you're 20. So Rabbi, that was Isaac in Torah, will live what? 40. And Abaye was Isaac in Torah, Gemilas Chesed, will live till 60. Very beautiful mashra to explain what? To explain the why dafka those amount of years. Says the Gemara Vaita. Tan Rabbanan. Mishpacha achas haisib Yerushalayim. There's a mishpacha in Yerushalayim. Shayamesim kiben shmoina esishana. They would lie like 18 years old. It would make like 18 would be good because they lived to 20. Maybe they're from the mishpacha of Eli. Shenema v'chol marbis beisecha yemusu. Anoshim lechu v'isku b'Torah, go be Isaac b'Torah b'tichyu, and you'll live. Holchu v'isku b'Torah, they went to Isaac b'Torah v'chayu, and they live. V'yikarim nesay mishpachas Yochanan. They called him Yochanan al Shmo. It's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. If somebody remembers what we had in Rosh Hashanah, that's it. Amar Shmuel bar Unya, Amar Rav. Minay legazardin shel tzibur sheina nechtam ina nechtam v'ksiv. How do you know gazardin of a tzibur that it's not signed? Ina nechtam v'ksiv. Let me what is that?
Call from Baker Harold East.
Vaksiv ki im techavsi baneser v'tarbilach buryis nichtam avoinech. Nichtam avoinech lefanai means your avoinech, they're written in front of me. So if the avoinech, your averis are written in front of me, you see clearly that what? It's not erased. It's ain't right. How do you know even if they're written miskareya, they can be ripped up? Shenemar mi kashem elokeinu b'chol karenu elov. Who's like Hashem that we call out to him? Mashma that we call out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the gezeira is ripped up. Seek Hashem when he can be found. Mashma, it's only ripped up when you can find him. Says Malay Kasha, it's not a problem. Habi Yachid, Habit Sibor. If it's a tzibor, let's go the other way. If it's a yachid, then it can only be ripped up der Hashem behimatzo at certain times. If it's a tzibor, then it's Hashem Elokeinu b'chol karenu. Then it's like any time. You can the tzibor.
Rabbi, this week's parsha Shlach, there was a gzeira against Klal Yisrael that Hashem partially rescinded.
There you go. I think it should make it into somebody's writings. Okay.
Never know.
Yeah. Yachid Emas. Guys, Yachid, when exactly is the Yachid ripped up? When exactly is the Yachid ripped up? Rav Nachman, Rav Ravua, Elu Asar Yom Shemin Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. These are the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That obviously Der Shoshan B'Yimatzo, right? And Tainus Sibur also, we read that the Haftarah and the Tainus Sibur is I think it's Nun Beis or Nun Hey, Yeshaya. Shai Nun Hey. Shalchali Lavu Dishmul, Yevamot Shirakaka Dam, a Yevamot that goes ahead and spits blood. Tachlites, go ahead and do chalitza. You know why? If you see mixed into the dam is roik. In other words, we spoke out that where does it say that it has to be roik? Over here, it's mashma, it has to be roik, but in dam, there's no, in other words, in the dam, there's roik. Automatically, in the blood is spittle. That seems to be, okay. Now, Mesivei, Yochli dama yoitzami pit. Now, the halacha is, guys, a zov or a zava, kol mayones are an avatuma. So, for example, the spittle of a zav will be an avatuma, the urine of a zav will be an avatuma. All things will be avatuma. So, what about the dam of a zav? Let's say the dam, let's say that comes out of its mouth or out of his base, out of his amma. So yachol yehi dam hayotzim mipiv u'mpia amma, or from his organ tamei. Talmud leima zoyvay tamei ve'ein dam hayotzim mipiv u'mpia amma tamei ela tahar. So we 1 second. You're telling me that in the dam is spittle. Spittle clearly is an avatuma. So how can you tell me the dam is tar? Mashma that there is no spittle mixed in with the dam, because you tell me the dam that comes out of the zav is tar. It's not a mayan shel zav. Says no, it depends. When you go ahead and you suck and you spit, that's when it's mixed in the spittle. If it's dripping out, then it's pure blood. If it's dripping out. Okay, so based upon this Gemara, I'll ask you a Gvaldig Kasha. Why don't we say bittul beroiv? Why don't we say that the spittle, the spittle, we say batal beroiv? That if you're telling me that the spittle of the dam has, why don't we say the blood goes ahead and it's mevatel the spittle, and therefore it would not be rat. Or if there's more spittle, worse the other way. Why don't we say bittul beroiv? So there's a Mordechai. I'll give you a nice marmakim. Mordechai in Chulin. Simin Tovshin Lamed Zayin. Safe Mordechai and Chulin Tovshin Lamed Zayin says two terutzim. One, it must be speaking where it's nicker the spittle. In other words, if you'd look at the blood, you'd see blood and you'd see the bubbles. You would see like some other type of liquid, which clearly would be spittle. That's one. A second one, which I think this one really appealed to me. When do we say bittul beroiv, guys? Is only when things were separate. They were separate and then they came together. If something from the beginning of its existence was mixed together, we don't say bittul beroiv. It's a very nice lumdis. Bittul beroiv would mean the following. I have milk, I have meat. Certainly milk and meat were never created together. You put them together, if you have the proportion of 60 times milk more than the meat, we'll say it's milchiks, not fleishiks, right? Because they're separate, and now we'll say the majority overrides it. What happens from the beginning of time? This spittle and the blood, when it came into existence, they were both mixed together. Then you don't say bittul. So therefore, that would be over here. Why we don't say bittul over here?
How about min b'mino?
According to who? Only Rabbi Yehuda. That's Rabbi Yehuda's shita. Min b'mino ain't a battle. And Rabbi Yehuda learns it out from Itaka learns it out from Dam, the Dam of Yom Kippur, the Dam of Visay, right? But you have to say this not like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, says the Gemara Vayta, guys, Geschmack. We said cheresh shenechlatz, a cheresh that does chalitza or dantam, that it's psula. Rav Yehuda Marav Zudiv Reb Meir. These are the words of Reb Meir, who says that what Reb Meir said Nisharabah that a ben test is like a gadol. He said it. Remember, the bia of a 9-year-old is like a gadol. The chalitza of a cotton is nothing. So we wouldn't say chalitza psul again. Chalitza psul means it would ask on the brothers. It wouldn't ask on the brothers. If the cotton gives chalitza, it wouldn't ask on the brothers. Ketana shachal. So what about ketana? Says the same thing. The Amar Ish Ksiv Parsha. Now the Parsha says the following. It says if the ish does not want to go ahead and take her, it says, and then it says at the end, it says the lashon of it says ish, and then it says also yevimta yashara. So we said the ish also yevimta yashara. Now, if we make a hekesh between the word ish and yevimta, so just like an ish is a gadol, so to the yevama has to be a gadol. Okay. If you make that hekesh, then it has to be a gadol. Obviously, Reb Meir makes that hekesh, and therefore the woman's katana won't be anything. But like the chacham who don't make the hekesh, as long as the ish is a gadol, that would preclude the girl being, a katana. You would be able to do chalitza. So says the Gemara. I'm Rabbi Yudam Zudiv Reb Meir that the katana will be puzzled. Tama ish ksib parsha. It says ish in the parsha. Umakshinon ish leish. We make a hekesh between the yevimtai the isha as symbolized the word yevimtai leish to the ish. Al chacham ma'imim ish ksib parsha. Isha ben gedol ben katana. But an isha ben gedol ben katana would be able to go ahead and do yibum. So therefore, the Tana of a Mishnah is Reb Meir and not the chachamim. Says the Gemara. Man chachamim. Who's the chachamim? Now again, chachamim don't necessarily have to be more than one person. Chacham usually is the opinion that Rabbi says the halacha is according to. In this case, the Chacham is an individual. Man Chacham is Rabbi Yossi. Who's the Chacham? Is Rabbi Yossi. Reb Chia, Reb Shimon bar Rabbi. Reb Chia and Reb Shimon, the son of Rabbi, have a yasvei. They were sitting. Pasach had minay of Amar. Hamispalo, someone who davens. Tzara sheyitain einov lemata. He has to look. Rashi says Eretz Yisrael, copy Eretz Yisrael, Mishum Shechina. So a person has to have his eyes towards Eretz Yisrael. Shneimar, v'ye'enei v'libi sham kol hayamim. Hashem says, my eyes and my heart are there all the days. The Chada Amar one says, Einav l'maylo. His eyes have to be right above. Shneimar, the pasuk says, Nisa levavenu el kapayim. So Nisa lift up levavenu our hearts el kapayim. So it's mashma that you look above. So what's pshat? Is it towards Eretz Yisrael? Is it towards Shemayim? Us Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yamalu, Maya 6. So what are you being Yossi? What are you learning? Some later they told Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Tefillah. We're discussing the hilchos of Tefillah. Amalu Kacham Abba. So my father Rabbi Yossi, it's not in the Gemara. Guys, Rabbi Yossi is Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. We have famous Rabbi Yossi HaGalili, but when it's Rabbi Yossi HaGalili, the Gemara will always say Yossi HaGalili. Why? Because Stam Rabbi Yossi is Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta, and we know in a Kloli Hashas Nimukoi Imoi that the laws go with Rabbi Yossi. That Nimukoi Imoi, the law is like Rabbi Yossi. So he paskins, the law is like. So my father said, "Hamispal Sarshit and Ein of Lamata." You have to look towards Eretz Yisrael for Libel Lamailo. Kadeshi Yekayim Mushnei Mekrois Halolu Kimekayim these two psukim. The beautiful Marmokim over here in the Sefta Brachas stuff of Beis Amid Beis, in the words of the Rif, the Talmud Rabbeinu Yoina. I'll read to you these beautiful words of the. How do you makayim these two concepts of having Eretz Yisrael and being and having your eyes lamaila? So here's the lashon. Sir shitin ev lamatav liba lamaila liboy lamaila pirish yachshe beliboy. You should think in your mind kilu oimid b'shemayim. You should view yourself as in shemayim. V'yosemi liboy kol tanugay el mazeh, and remove from your mind all the physical world. All the physical hana of the physical world we live in, you should go ahead b'shasat tefillah, remove and view yourself as a incorporeal, as without body in shemayim. The inyan that's lamaila. The inyan lamata appears shalaachash yagil machshava zu. Once you get to this machshava of that, I'm removed from the physical. I'm in shemayim. Shebitel kalanoi shaboy lamiliboy yachshev gam kein kilu oimei bebeis hamikdash. View yourself as if you're standing in the Beis Hamikdash, shehu lemata, and as a result, your tefillah will be accepted much more. So that's how it's a beautiful combination of the two concepts. How do you view yourself lemaila? Is you go ahead, you view yourself as being removed from the physical, you're there, and then you placing yourself in the Beis Hamikdash lemata. That's the key, the riff, the brachas and riff of Beis Amid Beis. Very, very nice pshat.
When you're davening, the tefillas you're asking for are very often for physical and materialistic things. So first you say remove yourself, and now but the things you're davening for.
Again, tefillah is there's bakashos in tefillah. There's different parts of tefillah, though. There's the bakasha part of tefillah, and then you begin tefillah by praises to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You end tefillah with thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're speaking about the bakashos that they made. That's bakashos, but tefillah, b'shas tefillah, even you understand, you can make this bakashos, but you're placing yourself in a certain aviron, right? I think that would answer your question, right? You place yourself in a certain matzav like that. You do live in a physical world, and you could ask for physical needs, but to ask for those things, one first should place himself in this matzav, right? One should place himself in this matzav of what? Of being removed and place himself in the Beis Hamikdash, and then you could ask for what you want. I don't think it's contradictory. Says the Gemara Vaita. So this Rabbi, that's what Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi told Rabbi Yossi told Rabbi Chia and Rav Shimon Baribi, who were discussing tefillah. He told them exactly what Rav Shimon said, and we're all bringing this in to figure out that Rabbi Yossi is the one who says that only who does even if it's a katana, she could go ahead and do chalitza, right? We're leading up to that. So we began by an introduction of Rabbi Yishmael bar Rabbi Yossi meeting up with Rabbi Chia and Rav Shimon Baribi meeting up and hearing their discussion about tefillah, and Rabbi Yishmael bar Yossi sharing with them the psak of his father, right? So now, as this went on, right? Adhachi asa Rebbe, Lemesifta, Rebbe came to yeshiva, and Rabbi Shmuel came to hear the shir of Rebbe. So inu dahabi kalili, Reb Chia and Reb Shimon Baribi, who were swift, meaning they were not heavy. Yasu b'dechtayu, they sat down in their place. That again, they used to sit on the floor. Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yossi, agav yukre, he was heavy. The Gemara Bava Metzia speaks about how heavy he was. He was a big man. Now he couldn't sit down immediately. So Havi Mefasa, he was walking, going, and picture this: he's walking over the heads of the people. Talmidim was sitting on the floor. So Amalei Avdan, who was the shamish of Rebbe, said to him, "Mihu zeh shemefasla Roshayam Kadosh? Who's this man? Who is this man who's walking over the people?" Now Avdan's going to pay the price for this, for being mevaza Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. He was mevaza. Who are you to walk over them? So Amalei, Ani Yishmael Rabbi Yossi, Shabasi Lum L'Torah Mi Rebbe. You know who I am? I'm Rabbi Yishmael Rabbi Yossi, and I came here to learn Torah from Rebbe. Amalei, V'chi'ata Hagan Lum L'Torah Mi Rebbe. Are you right to go ahead and learn Torah from Rebbe? And so Amalei, V'chi Moshe Haya Hagan Lum L'Torah Mi Gvura. Was Moshe able to learn Torah via Gvura? Amalei. So Avdan said to Rabbi Shmuel, "V'chi Moshe ata? Are you Moshe?" Amalei, "V'chi Rabcha Elokimhu? Is your Rebbe God?" So things are not going to end well for Avdan. So Amar Rav Yosef, Shakli Rebbe Limat Pearson. Rebbe was guilty of letting this go on. The Kamalei Rabcha, he had heard him that Rabbi Shmuel said Rabcha V'lei Rebbe. Adhachi Asi Yevamot Lakamei, the Rebbe, a Yevamot came in front of Rebbe, Amalei Rebbe, Lovden, Poik Batka, go check out whether she is what? She is a Gedoyla. Poik, go check out, obviously, whether she's reached puberty. That's what Rebbe told Avdan. Now, Amalei, this is we brought this in only for this, guys. Amalei Rishmol, Kach Ama Abba. You know what my father said? Ish ksiv b'parsha. It says kasev b'parsha ish. Aval isha ben gedol ben katana. It's unnecessary to check the status of this woman. It's unnecessary because again, whether she's a gedol or a katana, the process of yibum can be done. This is what we said above. Man chachamim who argue on Reb Meir, Reb Yossi. So from this ma'isa, we're getting the shita of Reb Yossi that it's permitted to go ahead even for a katana to have yibum. Chalitza. So Amalei, so said Rebbe, he told Avdan, stop, Leitzricha. We don't have to go ahead and check. Kvar Hoymer Zaken, with the Zaken already was what? Paskin, Rabbi Yossi Paskin, that Chalitza can be done by Katana. Now, Kapasa Avdan now began walking back over the heads of the people. Va'asi, Amalei Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Mishet Tzarech Loi Am Kodesh, Yafsal Rashi Am Kaddish. Someone who's needed by the Am Kaddish can walk over their heads. Me, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, you needed me to tell you the psak of my father that a chalitza can be done even by a katana. I can walk. Misha ain't tzarech Am Kaddish, but someone who's unnecessary, like you, Heich Yafsal Rashi Am Kaddish. How can you walk over them? So Amalei Rebbe la'avdan kum beduchtech. Rebbe told Avdan, stay in your place. Tana boisa shad nitztayra Avdan. He became a mitzayra for speaking lashon hara by Yishmael Rav Yossi. B'tovish neibanav le'aleinu, his two sons drowned. Umina shtei kaloisav, and his two daughter-in-laws, they did miyah on those two son-in-laws, and they were unable to perform yibum because of Avdan. That was the midah keneged midah. That was unable for the lahakim shem be Yisrael to keep the sons that what that to keep their names going, they had married a Katanis, and they did Miyun. Baruch Rachmanim the Kasvei la'Avdon, Baruch HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that what he had Rachmanis in the embarrassment of Avdon, b'hayalma, in this world. Guess what? That he got punished in this world rather than the next. There's a famous shtickle from Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. I can't find my sefer. But it speaks about the godless of Olam Haba. How terrible. He brings it in. He brings it in. I couldn't find my sefer. Where is it? Yeah, I see. Chaim Shmulevitz notes that after being afflicted with Siras and losing two sons, Avdon is described as being shamed in this world. That's because the goal of a punishment is for a person to feel embarrassed about his mistake and be forgiven. Okay. Again, he has other stuff. He speaks about. I remember Reb Chaim spoke about how the chashivas of Olam Haba. Look what he got punished with. Nebuch, he lost his sons. Terrible thing. Nonetheless, guess what? He didn't lose his Olam Haba. Whatever happened to him, he didn't lose his Olam Haba. A crazy thing. I just bought my sefer home. I had it in school. I bought it home. I could not find it for the life of me because I wasn't supposed to. In the Shemaim, I guess I wasn't supposed to share with you. Anyway, Amar Rabbi Midvar Shal Rabbi, from the words of Rabbi the God Lador Nilmu Katana Chaletzes Bepudais. The katana, she can have chalitza bepudais. A girl who reaches putas 6 or 7 years old, who understands mekach or memkar, that's the age where chalitza can be done. In other words, you're telling me a katana, but again, it's not a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. It's a girl who reached b'mei putais, someone's able to understand a little business acumen. Rava Amar Asher Tagia La'oinis Nedarim, until she reaches what? The oina of Nedarim, which is 12. The Hilchasat Shetavi Shtei Sarais, the halacha is what? Shtei Sarais. Okay, I think the oinis Nedarim is a year before 12. And Chaltza B'Shnayim, we said you do Chalitza B'Shnayim, a Shloisha, and we said you do it 1, and we had 2 people, and we said they apostle it, and we had, the Mishnah said that Reb Shimon and Rabbi Yochanan Sandal, they both said that it was kosher because he was kosher with 1. Bidi Eved. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yumi, Rabbi Nachman, Ein halacha koisa zug. The halacha is not like Rabbi Yosef, Sandla, and Rabbi Shimon. If that 1 is okay, you need at least 3. Rabbi Nachman, Chad Zimni, already said this one time. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yumi, Rabbi Nachman, Chalitza b'shleish, you need 3. So why does he have to paskin over here that 1's not good? So tzricha. The mahach kamaisa that you need 3. Havikim nahani milu lechatchila 3. Al b'diavad afilu trey. Kamash malon. Ein halacha koisa zug. The halacha is not like them. That what you need 3. V'yashmin ein halacha koisa zug. Alakatana kama having minute diavad 3. Al lechatchila liboy chamisha. I would say lechatchila you need 5. So tzricha. Again, we had a half a mina guys. Remember from Pesume Milsa. You want to go ahead and be mafarsim that she's a chalutza. We said 2 reasons. 1, that the client should not to marry her, and 2, to go ahead and say she's available, that the other people should go ahead and marry her. So by a chalitza, we want as much publicity as possible. So we spoke about hasha'ara designating a spot. We spoke about that bundles of reeves. They went ahead and dafkid it by 5 by the bundles of reeves. Why do you need 5? I only need 3. We said l'sumi milsa. So you might think to publicize it, you need 5. Kamashman, 3 will do the job. I thank you all for listening. Mazel tov, everybody.